All right, hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We did this scene last night and I really love the look. We're going to try it again, but we'll do it on a previous stamp sketch from my, I don't know, stamp sketching video based on the new designs, okay? Now this is a composition that I really liked and I wasn't quite sure if I had room in here for that sun, but I think I could, you know, sneak it right behind that pavilion like that. Might be kind of interesting. I guess I'll just try to, leave most of the color out of the pavilion. I'll get a little bit of the tip in there like that. And I think that should be plenty of room for that sun in there. All right. So, okay, so since I'm bringing in some water into the scenario, I think I'm going to leave that sun for after I do my watercolor effects. You don't have to do the watercolor effect on here. You can just use a colored pencil and tone things in. But I think that kind of that washy look in general makes the feeling of this type of whatever landscape. It feels a little bit more, I don't know, traditional or whatever, based on the Chinese ink paintings. Okay, so they're real watercolory in spirit. All right. So here's what I'm thinking about too. I'm going for the watercolory look down at the base of these types of things, okay, where it transitions into the white. I guess you can use just a regular traditional colored pencil up top, where it's not going to be going into solution, where I don't want that kind of washy feeling. Maybe I'll try that. I'll try a combination of the two, and we'll see what we can come up with here, okay? So that was one of the things I didn't, it was mostly me because I don't, I'm not an accomplished, or, hey, you don't have to be an accomplished, but I've never used, like, I don't know, like watercolors and painting on my scenes before, at least that I can remember. So my usage of it is kind of, it's weak. You know what I mean? I did it for the first time last night. So anyways, see this right down here? I'll leave this area for the watercolor pencil. Let's give that a try and see how that works, okay? Yeah, because I like some of just the straight pencil application of the watercolor pencil. I guess we can do that too. We can come up here a little bit with watercolors, and if you were just using a watercolor pencil, you just don't go up there, I guess. But let's see what we can do here in terms of the combination of the two, and we'll see if there's any difference in terms of the overall look and handling of the medium. Let's see if it's easier, in other words, okay? All right, so on the tops of these peaks, if you didn't watch yesterday's video, what we're doing is we're going to darken the tops of the peaks, and we're making them lighter down at the base, okay? Because these are supposed to look like they're coming out of the clouds. If you want some ideas, just look up Chinese ink paintings, okay? Just do a search on that. And you'll get a lot of inspiration. You'll see where I've come up with, what I've based these designs on, okay? So like I said in yesterday's video too, this is a little bit different in terms of the spirit of the handling of light. Okay. Now a lot of times I do have like mist or something rising from, the base of a mountain or something like that. Oftentimes, okay. But a lot of times things are top lit because, the light is coming from above. Well, in this case, because you have that low-lying fog and mist and clouds, oftentimes the base of these land masses are lighter. So it's things are being bottom lit, okay? So it's a little bit of a different spirit, okay? It really makes things in many ways much easier to render, though, because you don't have to shade as much, I guess, Not that that's hard or anything like that. This is just, like I said, this is just like less work. Okay. So, and if you're going for kind of a grayscale type of application too, you know, I mean, it's even easier. Okay, I think that should do it with the colored pencils. This is just a straight Prismacolor colored pencil, okay? And we'll go to my watercolor pencil now, and we'll add that around the base, or that transition zone. The feeling of the two different pencils, I find the consistency slightly different with this one, okay, than the colored pencil. It's fairly subtle, but you can kind of tell. Might be different with different colored pencils and watercolored pencils. Meaning different brands. Okay, let's go into the water. I really like that kind of water. That kind of transition zone into the water area that I added yesterday. Over here, I added a lot of lighter areas, so I didn't add too much. So let's make this really, really light in value as well. Okay, so see that little shadow area right here, like that. We'll do something like that there, I think. We'll have this really cloudy over here. But let's give it a little bit of contrast within that zone, just for a little bit more visual interest. Okay. I guess the good thing with this is if you go a little bit too dark, you can always knock it down by adding that water wash over the top of it and putting it back into solution. This right here is the Mystic Hills left and right, but we just used them back to back here. Oops, I almost forgot about this right side Mystic Tree area. Ooh, kind of dark on this, so we'll kind of give it a little bit of a silhouette against this really light background, I think. All right, let's see here. Oh. Seeing if I have an eraser here. I don't have my kneadable eraser. I'm getting a little smudgy up here again from putting my hand in that, probably the watercolor. I doubt if I'm kind of spreading around the waxy, Prismacolor. It might be. I need to be a little bit more careful. Sometimes it's good to just keep a paper towel here, and then when you're drawing with it, you keep your hand on that area right there, and you won't smudge things around. All right, I think that should do it here. Yeah, a little bit darker right here. Fine tuning. I don't really know what I'm looking at in many ways when I'm doing this type of thing because I'm not quite sure how dark I should make things, in an ideal sense. But, this is just kind of experimenting around, and I think it did look pretty good just, on my initial exploration of this technique here yesterday. Let's see. We need a clean palette here. I just put my ink back into solution right there. Whatever colors were in there before. I guess if you want to give it a little tinge of color, that black, you can, add a little tone right in your water maybe and apply it into your scene. All right, so what I did was I kept a paper towel right next to me and kind of blotted that off a little bit, and then I worked from the base up like this and just kind of wiped off some of that watercolor pencil pigment periodically if things were getting too dark. All right, so I'm going down here and kind of transition that area down here. A little bit of a washy look like that. So as I'm kind of going up in this a little bit and bringing some of it down like this to make it hopefully, look somewhat like it was a ink, the whole thing has been like an ink wash or painting. I need to be a little bit careful, I guess, because I don't know how this water is going to affect my impressions. All of this was done in a dye-based ink, but I think it's been sitting around long enough to where, it seems fairly, established, and it doesn't seem to be going back into solution with this small amount of water that I'm applying on here. This right here, this is like the area right in here that I want that watercolor to create a transition zone in, but in a very watery kind of ink wash way like that. See that right there? It looks like I have a lot more control over it yesterday, I guess because I'm not putting it, like a ton of it back into solution like I did yesterday the first time. So just less, I don't know, less paint, I guess, less watercolor pencil pigment. All right, so I think that gave me a decent little wash right there. See that little gray transition zone like that? Let's go a little bit lower down here. I'm being a little bit gutsier today because I'm working with such a very light shade instead of kind of a darker one that was a little bit kind of less in control maybe. Okay. Maybe this one's a little bit dark. There's a lot more paint right in there. Let's go hit it with a drier application then. This. Looks pretty good. I just got a nice little wash right in there with just some water. All right, now in some of those paintings, what I saw yesterday was a little bit more tone on the top just to kind of frame things off. I'm going to see if I can get some of this paint in here. I'll put a little bit of it in solution. I'll just come in here like this. Just for a little bit of a gray wash at the top. Okay, now this is good. Now see, when I'm going across these mountains on top, I use the Prismacolor, so it's, well, that went back into solution because I put a little bit of tone. But for the most part, it's not, you know, it's not making it too, you know, I don't know, whatever, inky. Not that it's bad, but I just have, like I said, for me, having control over it, it's a good idea to, you know, not apply too much. Let me get a little bit more. I'm just pulling some of it off of this bottom portion like that, and then coming up here like this with it. Okay, I need to be careful in here. I guess that's where my sun is going to go. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of a wash over this way. All right, I think that is it for my water treatment. Let me make sure this area is dry up here for my sun. And we'll put it around about like so. Use whatever size, you know, template you want. And just a piece of paper towel. And I go for layers just to make it look a little bit more varied and rich, you know, since this is like the only color used in here too. So, you know, probably a good idea to use a decent amount of variation. Oh, I did go into that space. I need to be real careful about that. Okay. Whoa. I need to put a piece of paper out this way. I put this piece of paper down here. All right, this is a little bit of a darker red up top, you know, to create that extra little transition zone. Do that right there. Sunrise. Okay, I think that looks pretty cool. Pretty dramatic, I think. And it's certainly easy to do. It's like some of the easier, I don't know, whatever application treatments, I guess. Okay, let's hit it with some additional fog and whatnot. I guess everything's reasonably dry on here to do this now. I think it looks pretty good as is, though, but I think this just makes it look a little bit more, I don't know, cloudy. Let's try the, okay, this is the Brilliance ink. Let me try the, just the Hero Arts. I was wondering if my Brilliance was a little bit toned, you know, where maybe the Hero Arts might be a little bit whiter, I don't know. And I'm going to format this. That's why I'm not doing this one live, too. I want to really format it into that, that gold and dark kind of matting. Okay, so if this is your first video, I have to treat every video as a, you know, someone just came across it for the first time, but this is what I always say. When you're using a pigment ink like this, you're going for a nice smooth application of this, not like sopping wet. And if this kind of looks a little bit frayed, this one's kind of going on there nice and flat, but you just kind of smash it down a little bit like that to get a nice flat surface that you're using. Okay, if this is a little bit too big, then just, you know, mold it into the shape that you need. And okay, now as you can see, I don't know, maybe you can't see, but the Hero Arts, my pad right here is kind of medium to dry, so it's not sopping wet. Okay, and what you do is you start working it from the bottom up, or wherever the light is, into the darker area. Okay. Now, if you're working with a sopping wet cotton ball, that's going to be a lot more precarious. So don't do that. Dab it off as much as you need, okay? And don't try to get this like quickly. You're doing this like as if you're applying like a very light, almost like a powder. See that? It's just a very, very light application. And then if you want it to get more opaque and lighter, then you just keep tapping instead of, going into it with like a sopping wet type of thing. Don't go like this and say, oh my God, nothing's happening. And then go in here and blob. You know what I mean? So you just kind of keep working it, and then you just work it a little bit more opaque and light, because it is white. So things are getting a little bit lighter. But then, so you can see the difference between over here and over here. I think over there looks pretty good too. But this is just like a little additional kind of lighting treatment. And it's not only that, it's a kind of a textural treatment, because this makes those transition zones look even lighter as a result. Okay, I don't know which one works better, the brilliance or the brilliance has a little bit of shimmer to it, I guess. Maybe in this one, maybe just the standard white pigment ink. This one's going to be an oil-based pigment ink too. Most pigment inks are oil-based. Okay, I'm blotting over some of that little red I got over there. But yeah. Now you don't see like huge changes, when I add this on here, because I'm adding in this white into an area that's already light. Okay. But you can see a little bit of change that's taken place in here. Maybe around here where it's a lot darker, you'll be able to see this a lot more down here. Okay. I mean, it's not super like black or anything like that, but you see the difference right there? You see this line kind of going across here. Let's put a little bit of this cloud in the back of some of these trees. So see that like that? And let's place it a little bit around this this hill and at the base of it for sure. Okay. And then the boat right here. I got some smudges right behind them with my hand or something like that. So you just kind of blot it off and make it look a little bit more obscure. And I'll put that boat in a little bit of a cloudy fog. I put too much there, so I'm just using the clean part. I just rotated and I just wiped some of it off, so you can apply it and then wipe it off too, if you need to. Just try not to, let's try to avoid having to remove it. But if you need to remove it, then just remove it. Can't remove it really 100%, but you can get most of it off. This doesn't dry like instantly. This is a semi-gloss cardstock here that I'm working on. I was really pleased that it didn't really smudge my dye-based ink impressions here. So everything's kind of glowing now with this pigment ink over the top of a lot of things. Let's lighten up some of these mountains a little bit more around the base. Yeah, you can add things in layers. You just kind of allow it to sit and look and see how it, is going to look, and then just apply more accordingly. Okay. When the pigment ink dries, and as you're working on it, it starts to dry out. It gets a little bit more see-through, so the images in the background stand out more. Okay. But you just kind of build it up with, with however much opacity and light you want. So it's good in many ways, as I've mentioned before. Sometimes you don't want it to go too light too fast, so as it dries, it kind of incorporates itself with the background a little bit more. Sometimes you want it lighter, and it's like, oh, okay, I thought I had it where I wanted it, you know. And then you have to add more. But I guess that's better than having to, you know, apply too fast or something like that. And then you have to kind of remove it. You know, there's less control over it that way. But if you can just keep adding more and more, that's better, right? You don't want it to be like cooking in salt, where if you add too much, you know, it's kind of, I guess you can dilute it if it's soup or something like that. But it's, you want to just add a little bit at a time. All right, I think that should do it, though. That was a pretty simple process right there. These scenes like this, I wish I left a little bit more room for a quote or something like that. You can put a quote down below it or something like that, but this will just be the scene right here. So it's just 25 minutes right here in terms of the application. Let's format this into a scene. I'll put it in this little bit of a gold border right here. Kind of brings out the gold of the sun, I guess, a little bit. And then I'll put it on this darker, glossy cardstock around, really reminiscent of a black lacquer frame or something like that with a little bit of trim. All right, do that and see what this one looks like. All right, this is my formatting here, and this is just too good to miss this quote in here. I'm going to put this quote here. It's a good traveler has no fixed plans, is not intent on arriving. It's another one of those Lao Tzu. I don't know how you pronounce it. Okay. Quotes, but it's a really great quote. Here's this little fishing boat right here, but it's also this really long quote, which is perfect for this format here. I can't stamp it on top of this and have it show, but I've seen where people stamp on top of like a piece of vellum, and then, they mat it off or something like that and then place that over the top. So I'm going to try that. On the vellum, I think I'm going to use my StazOn. Okay. And we'll see if we can get this formatted here. And what I'll do is I'll mat that off as well. And, we'll have hopefully kind of an interesting quote here. Let's see, I need to figure out okay, good. You have to kind of find your pressure points, when stamping stamps. Since I'm doing this on a separate thing, I guess it doesn't matter quite as much, but like here, I didn't kind of get that top portion on that first impression, so it's a fairly long quote like that too. So see that right there? I have it's a little bit off a little bit, but I'll just correct that when I cut this out. So I'm going to mat it onto a piece of, or mount it on a piece of white paper. I don't want to just have this as an overlay here, because you still can't read that. So we'll put that on a piece of paper and mount that up, and then I'll frame it off with another piece of the dark cardstock like that. Okay, the dark glossy, I think. And I think that should do it. All right, next step. All right, folks, I never claimed to be smart. And don't feel that I am. Why did I just stamp this out on vellum? I don't know. I got outside, I was like, why am I mounting this up on there? Unless I had something behind this vellum. So this vellum was, you can just stamp it on a white piece of paper if you're just going to mount it like that. It does have a little bit of a, kind of a softer kind of look to it, which is maybe more in the characteristic of the scene. But you know what I mean? I don't know why I did that. I guess I was thinking of vellum for some reason. Or maybe I thought it would block off the back a little bit. I don't know. We didn't need to do that on vellum. But I do think this quote will go pretty nicely in here. Let's see. Put it over here. I'll put it a little bit higher. I put spray adhesive on here. Let's just throw it up here. First inclination. I'm going to be missing some of the that mountain back there, but oh well. So be it. I do like that quote up there like that. I think it looks kind of cool. Yeah, it would have been down here too. I guess it could have looked interesting. But hey, I didn't plan for it to be in the scene. And there it is. Okay, so I was looking at this little temple pavilion here, and I'm going to put that in a little bit of this mist as well. I thought it could get pushed back a little bit in terms of the depth, and just to create a little bit of variation within it. I felt that everything back here kind of had some of this white pigment ink on there, so let's, kind of add a little bit more. Now see on here, a lot of the pigment ink really kind of, I don't know, it dried and it integrated, with the background a little bit more, so I'm going to hit it again and go for a little bit of a thicker application of it, okay? And just to get a little bit more opacity, light, and as important, texture within the scene, that soft, kind of billowy, cloudy feel. This is kind of adding a little bit of a kinesthetic touch to it, so everything's visual, but when you do things that are, add things that are soft, you're adding a visual texture to the scene. You're expanding on the range of visual texture within the scene, and people do like soft things, and we like soft light, so it just makes the piece a little bit more, kind of enticing or something like that. People want to kind of explore it maybe visually. I just got some of that on my gold there. And yeah, it's just a little bit more of a welcoming visual for people, We're drawn to soft things. Animals, puppies, kittens, I don't know, whatever, 1 out of 10 of you just say, and I hate cats. Some people say, hey, I'm a cat person, I'm not a dog person. Well, what about a nice, cute, cuddly, I don't know, whatever, koala bear? All right, but I think that should do it right there. So let's take a look at the scene, technique, and whatnot. In terms of the overall piece, I was a little bit more aggressive with my use of that gold around the edge like that. I thought it had a cool kind of a look to it there. So just left a little bit more around on there. But anyways, this is like some of the least amount of coloring I've ever done on scenes that have color in them. Just a 1-inch round dot. But I do think it looks pretty interesting like that. I always liked photography and, the digital cameras over the last, whatever, 15 years or so. More than that, I think, have had that spot color thing where you can turn it on this filter and you designate what color you want, so only that color shows through. So when I was taking a classroom of kids on St. Patrick's Day, I turned it to green, so anyone that was green, everything's black and white except for anyone wearing green or that green color, stuff like that. So I know this kind of reminds me of that same type of thing where you got a grayscale monochromatic in there just with a little bit of spot color like that. I think that's pretty cool. Let's see. In those scenes that I've seen like that, there's some little birds flying in there. Let's see what that would look like in here. These are my gulls right here. I just do it right over the top of that mountain, like that. Kind of interesting like that. That bottom one's in a little bit of the clouds like that, but yeah. It adds to the spirit of it a little bit. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene and whole technique like that. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy these videos, hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Also, if you want notifications whenever a new video has been added, hit that little bell button as well. All right, thanks a lot. Hope to see you on the next video or live stream.